Hey everybody, my name is Josh. Thank you very much for joining me. This is a new channel I've just created called All Roads Lead to Rome. This is basically a passion project, a side project, a little side hustle I'm trying to start to basically share with other people my passion for Italy, for the Italian language, for its culture, history, etc., etc., and to encourage you to learn Italian. So I don't quite know what direction this channel is going to take just yet. It may be focusing more on the language itself. I might be doing short beginners videos, or it might be more to do with culture, maybe a mix. I'm just sort of experimenting at the minute to see what happens. So in this video, I just want to explain a bit about how and why I started learning Italian. I'm now 28 and I started learning when I was 23, 24. During the COVID lockdown I started. I was on furlough, so it was a good time to try something new basically. So first of all, why Italian? Why bother learning a language at all? I'd always wanted to learn a foreign language. I think if you ask most people, 80 or 90% would say if they could, they'd love to be able to speak at least one other foreign language. For most people in the UK, this is probably French or Spanish or maybe Portuguese or something like that. For me, it's always been Italian. My first kind of exposure to Italian, I first went to Italy. I went to Rome when I was 19 for I think about 4 days. And I was just absolutely captivated, enraptured by Rome's beauty, the monuments, the architecture, the churches, the culture, and also, obviously, I heard lots of Italians speaking Italian, and I thought that it sounds so beautiful, it's so melodic, I'd love to be able to speak this language. So I had this in the back of my mind for a year or two. I dabbled a little bit, I tried to do some beginners learning and things like that, but it really started to take shape in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, when COVID hit and the lockdown started, because I had all this time on my hands. I thought, why not now? Why not? A little bit of a backstory. If you grew up, whether it's in the UK or in the US or wherever, the way that schools teach languages, in my opinion, is totally backwards. It's the least motivating, most boring possible way you could introduce someone to a foreign language. It's not really surprising that most people don't go on to study foreign languages, at least in the Anglophone world, much further than school, than high school. I did a bit of French, did a bit of German at school, no Italian, just a bit of French and German. And I hated it because all you're doing is sat down studying verb tenses, grammar rules. It's so uninspiring. And I'll take you through a little bit as to why I think that and what I think the best method actually is, what's worked for me, and what seems to work for most of the polyglots out there on YouTube. These guys who spend years learning, perfecting their language skills, do so usually using a variation of quite a natural method, which I'm going to take you through. Not in great detail, but just give you the basic strokes of what it involves, what it is, and why it works. So, when I first started learning Italian, I wanted to do it for fun, basically, and my goal from the beginning was quite ambitious. It was to basically become fluent, eventually. And I realised quite quickly that the way that schools and universities teach it, grammar rules, etc., obviously grammar and stuff is important, but if you start with grammar, you're going backwards. So think about how a baby or a child learns English, for example, their first language, their native language. Is it through grammar rules, verb tables, sitting down and doing exercises with vocabulary? Of course not. It's through constant exposure to the language, even though they don't understand what's going on properly. The brain is a very, very powerful tool, and what happens is over time, the brain learns to recognize patterns in language, and it applies meaning to those patterns. That's exactly the method that I've tried to use and to be as natural as possible. So this is often called comprehensible input. All that means is that you're getting input that's roughly a little bit higher than your current level. So obviously if you're a very, very complete beginner, absolute beginner, starting from scratch, you're dealing with basically kids material, which is fine, you know. basic phrases, basic words, very short, very simple stories. My name's Marco, I'm going to the shop, I'm buying milk, like stuff like that. Really, really basic. And you'll start to learn and see more patterns. You'll get used to the language. You'll get used to the sound of the language, the way it flows. And eventually you'll build and you'll build and you'll build up until fluency. Now that's obviously an incredibly quick run through and a very simplified run through of what the concept is, but I'm all about, and I think most people who actually are successful in learning languages as adults especially, use a variation of natural method, comprehensible input, using the brain's power, because if you're sitting there trying to learn a language through remembering grammar rules, it's going to be a frustrating and very slow and probably very boring process, and you're not going to be motivated to carry on. So what I did is I started with a website called LingQ. It's spelled lingq.com, I think, link.com. And on there you can find loads of free resources. You can start with short stories where you can listen to the audio and also read at the same time. Obviously, if you're looking to learn a language with a different alphabet, you have to learn that first. That's a bit more complicated. But if you're learning Italian or another Romance language with the Latin alphabet, then you don't have to do that step. The first thing I would recommend with Italian, I'll concentrate on Italian for now. The first thing you should know is that Italian is a phonetic language. So unlike English and French, all the letters and letter pairings are always pronounced in exactly the same way. So in English, for example, we have I don't know what the correct term is, a suffix or the part of a word that's spelled O-U-G-H. In English, that can be tough, through, though, and other variations. So English is obviously not a phonetic language. In Italian, let's just take the vowels, for example, A, E, I, O, U. They are always pronounced in the same way, no matter what. There are some variations with the E and the O, but I won't get into that. It's unimportant. It's unimportant. A, E, I, O, U in Italian is A, I, E, O, U. That's it. And if you learn those, you will 95% of the time be able to see a new word in Italian and be able to pronounce it correctly, or at least 90% accurately, because the letter sounds do not change, which makes it really easy for you as a beginner, as a learner, to see a word. You're not going to be confused by different pronunciations. It's the same. So to give you an example, we'll take the letter A. I'll use the words for cat and house. So just concentrate on the letter A to begin with. What's cat in Italian? It's gatto, G-A-T-T-O. Gatto, gatto. And the word for house is C-A-S-A, casa, casa. Not casa, not casa, whatever. It's always a. It's a very open sound. So, gatto, casa. Some other examples. The word for city, città, città. Rome, Roma, Roma. A, all the vowels, always the same. So once you know the sound, you'll know how to pronounce it. It makes your life a lot easier. So that's where I'd recommend beginning. Just run through the alphabet, just get used to the vowels and the sounds. I'd actually recommend, if you're starting from scratch, just go onto YouTube and type in beginners Italian, type in easy Italian. That's a really good channel for beginners. And literally, obviously at this point, you won't understand anything. That's fine, that's not the point. Just listen to a beginner's video on any topic, whatever, and just get used to the sound and the rhythm of the language. You'll probably pick up a couple of words just by accident, just because they're being repeated quite a lot. And there is a translation in English, so you can follow it along. But honestly, just get used to the sound, the rhythm of the language, and follow along with the Italian text on the screen. And that way you can obviously hear how the words you're seeing are being pronounced, and you'll see that it's a very consistent language. So that's what I'd start with. If I was starting from scratch today, I would find a beginner's video and just get used to the sound of the language, pair it with the paired with the text that's being shown, and just start from there. You don't have to start memorizing vocab from day one. You don't have to worry about sentence structure, grammar. Just let your brain do its job, get it used to the sounds, get it used to the patterns, and go from there. Once you feel ready, maybe try noting down a bit of vocab. You can try looking at a short story on link.com and just build slowly over the weeks, pian piano, slowly, passo dopo passo, step by step, just over time. And each time you're doing something, as long as it's slightly above your current level, you're always going to improve and learn something. It's very easy, and I did this a lot, and I've learned from it now, thankfully. But it's easy to become a perfectionist and to think you have to understand everything, to get disheartened when you see a word you don't know, or to be not understanding because the Italians speak quite quickly. Don't worry about it. You're learning step by step. Be patient with yourself. You're opening yourself up to a whole new language, a whole new way of seeing the world. It's not going to happen overnight. I've been studying kind of on and off for 4 or 5 years now, and although I can go to Italy and I don't need to use English at all, there are certainly still words and phrases that I've never heard before. Occasionally an Italian will say something to me and I don't quite get it, they speak too fast, or they use a word that I haven't heard. It's all part of the process. Nothing's ever perfect. There's no point where you suddenly know enough that you're now officially fluent and you never struggle in that language again. That doesn't happen. It's like it's a progression. And even when you do become fluent, or when you consider yourself fluent, there's always way more to learn. So don't stress out too much about being perfect. Just enjoy the process. That's the biggest thing. Because at the end of the day, if you enjoy the process, that's what's going to keep you coming back. It's like with the gym. I go and lift weights a few days a week. If I didn't enjoy it, and I've had periods in the past where I haven't enjoyed it and I stopped, it doesn't matter how hard you push yourself, how much you beat yourself up, how strict you are with yourself. If you're not enjoying it and getting something from it, you're just going to stop. Because what's the point? You need to be getting a bit of dopamine from it. You need to be enjoying the process and having fun with it. So don't put pressure on yourself, please. Don't be a perfectionist. Just enjoy the process. If you find after 3 months or whatever that you're really not enjoying it, you want to do something else. You want to do something else, maybe someone else as well. Then that's fine. Just stop. Switch language. Try something else. No one's forcing you to learn the language. So do it if it brings you joy. For me, it's been a huge passion, huge part of my life, and I want to keep doing it with Italian and with other languages. And that's also why I'm starting this channel, to share my passion with other people and to get people encouraged to learn this beautiful language, because it's fantastic. You suddenly have access to a whole new culture. How many of you have been on holiday to Italy or want to go to Italy? Your experience is going to be so much richer if you just have even the most basic knowledge of the coffee culture, for example. If you can go into an authentic Italian coffee bar, order an espresso and take in the atmosphere, all in Italian, you're living the dream. You don't have to worry about being perfect or having to understand everything. That already is a massive step. So that's what I would concentrate on. Just enjoy the process, get used to the sound of the language, and go from there. So obviously this has been a very broad, very kind of vague video on my background and why I think Italian's great and how roughly I think people should go about learning it. I'm going to be producing more content like this. It'll be much more specific over the next few videos, but this is just a very quick introduction to the language, to why I think it's great, and to how you can go about starting to learn it. Just to reiterate, if you want to start today, just take 10-15 minutes, search on YouTube, Easy Italian, and get used to the sound of the language and just enjoy it, and start from there. And from there, passo dopo passo, step by step, you'll get better and better. Thanks very much for watching, and see you again soon. Ciao.